All right. Today on the Expect Miracles podcast, we have Jana. Raj is the founder and chief brewer at Java Press Coffee Company, a brand that creates products to transform your favorite coffee ritual into an extraordinary daily experience. His company has done deals with Damon John on Shark Tank and been featured in Inc. magazine, USA Today, and several other media outlets. Raj is also the host of Stay Grounded, a weekly podcast that shares lessons from inspiring guests to help listeners achieve more fulfillment, success, and happiness in daily life. Please welcome Jana. Raj,
What's up,
how you
man?
doing today?
Great, man. That was one hell of an intro. I'll take
Oh,
that.
yeah. Pleasure to have you on. I'm a huge coffee fan, have it every single day, and
Awesome.
curious to learn more about it. And I know you have a great life story, and I'm excited to get into that too. So, Raj,
Absolutely.
where are you from originally?
So I was born in Boston.
Okay.
My parents are from India. They moved here before I was born, and then I was born in Boston. And then I moved to Texas when I want to say like 11.
Okay.
And I've been in Texas pretty much my whole life. I went to school in Texas, lived in New Orleans for a while. So been in the South for
Oh, yeah.
pretty much my entire adult career. So for all
You don't have that Southern draw.
you haven't been talking to me long enough.
That's funny. So, Raj, what were you into growing up?
Growing up, man, huge tennis. I played a lot of tennis.
Nice.
So I was a pretty competitive athlete. That a lot of it defined my childhood years. Everything from competing and traveling and missing out on parties in high school to go train. I mean, a lot of what I have now is built on the foundations that were built from being a competitive athlete, growing up. Lots of sports, supportive family. I mean, I had it good, man. I had it good. I had nothing to complain about growing up.
Awesome. Did you have to go to one of those academies? Because I know tennis is like a little like crazy with the competing and everything. Kids go away to school. And
I didn't ever go to a academy to go to school and train, but I'm lucky that in Houston there's lots of. That's where I'm from. I grew up in Houston. In Houston, there's lots of great academies pretty close by that I can go to and learn from, and it was great, man. I mean, I enjoyed playing tennis a lot. I didn't play in college just because I was burning out a little bit towards the end of. I mean, I'd been playing since I could walk, and
you were probably pretty pumped just to get to college and just experience.
Yeah, I kind of just wanted something a little different. I mean, when I looked at the workout schedules, waking up at 5 a.m. to do weights and then train 3 times a day. I mean, I just, at some point you make a decision, and if I wasn't going to put my heart and soul into it, I'd rather put my heart and soul into something else. And so that's kind of how my childhood was shaped. But tennis is still a huge part of my upbringing and a large part of my own personal story and my own personal journey and the character traits I have now. And everything is based on the hard work I put in that sport. So massive gratitude for it.
Yeah. And so, Rod, what was college life and like after graduation? What was going on then?
Sure. So college, I went to school for petroleum engineering. So that's what I did.
Very specific field.
And it was a very lucrative field. And I was in Texas. So I went to school at the University of Texas at Austin, and they had one of the best petroleum engineering programs. And so I wanted to do engineering just because I was always told engineering was the safest bet. And being from an Indian background, that was always like kind of drilled in, be a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer. And so engineering was what I chose. And eventually I wanted to do engineering, then go get an MBA and get into business. And that was like what my 10-year path in my mind was.
Yeah.
So college, I was an engineering major. I was heavily involved in the school and social organizations. I started my own fraternity when I was in college.
Nice.
And so I was a charter for that. And that was almost like a test drive for entrepreneurship. Like,
oh, absolutely.
Kind of taught me how to rush kids and host parties and talk to hotels and just kind of a lot of different relationship managing skills that I kind of had when I was in high school, but not properly developed.
Absolutely.
So I kind of got my chops just being more of a marketing and sales minded person in college. And then I graduated in 2013. and I got a job right out of school working in New Orleans.
Nice.
And I lived in New Orleans and worked as a petroleum engineer. So went to school for that, got a job for that. It was a rare case in today's society. Most people are graduating and not getting jobs for what they went to school
Oh,
for.
no, like nobody is. Like all
That's
my
what I'm
friends
saying.
have certain degrees that they're doing something completely different.
Yeah, and so I'm very grateful that I kind of got to practice what I learned, because I did pay for myself through school. My dad helped a little bit, as much as he could, and then we
Mhm.
took loans and paid. So I'm glad I was able to kind of take that and actually get the money back. And so yeah, started working, and sooner or later, man, I just kind of got, it wasn't for me. I just didn't feel the thrill of, for the first time in my life, when I was in high school, I had 4 years to play tennis, and
Mhm.
it was always like a light at the end of the tunnel. And then in college, I had 4 years to do something big, and there was that light at the end of the tunnel. For the first time in my life, I had started working full time, and the light at the end of the tunnel was like 60 years.
And
um,
how long did that path, like, where you're like, you know what, this isn't it? How long did that take?
so I graduated in, again, June of 2013. I started feeling like something was missing around the summer of 2014.
Okay.
And then, so about a year in, I realized that it wasn't for me, man. I mean, and it's for a lot of people. A lot of people have different experiences. For me, I just felt like, any job I wanted, even though I was a high performer, I was put on a waiting block and told to wait my turn. And,
Mhm.
it was just like I was being told things, and then other things were happening, and so much was out of my control. I just felt powerless. And,
Yeah.
at the time I was working my dad had just gotten laid off from his corporate job of
Mhm.
being there for several years. And then I was doing long distance with my girlfriend at the time. So like all these factors kind of just hit me at once.
Yeah.
And like, it was just, so I remember the first thing that I ever did in entrepreneurship was actually pick up a book called The 4 Hour Work Week.
4 hour 4.
Yeah. The 4 Hour Work Week by a guy named Tim Ferriss. And
Okay.
it was the first time I had learned like anything around business, or like, it was just such a radically different book than anything I'd ever been exposed to in my life.
Mhm.
Cause I feel like I grew up in a little bit of a bubble.
Mhm.
Like my parents told me to do one thing. My friends' parents told me to do the same thing. So every mentor or father figure or mother figure I had in my life was telling me to do what they knew what to do. Like this is what they had seen work for years, and this was it. And then for the first time in my life, I was reading this book, and this guy was telling me the exact opposite of doing what I was told to do. And that started a very amazing journey, and I got very curious about what else I didn't know.
How'd you get
Um,
your hands on that book? Did somebody recommend it to you, or was it just kind of like,
it's kind of funny. I was actually, I was walking in the airport, and I was feeling all these feelings. I was like, God, this sucks. And I remember walking in an airport, and it was like right up front, and it's a pretty catchy like title, 4 Hour Work Week. Skip the 9 to 5. Yada, yada,
oh
yada.
yeah.
So like I was like,
Who
okay,
doesn't
this
want that?
right, like it just drew me in, and so I bought it right then, and I started reading it, and then later on, I saw a friend of mine have it on his desk, and I found that he was investing in online courses, and he was learning like how to do marketing online and start side hustles. And so I got really intrigued at that point. And that's what really started the journey of almost like teaching myself business, learning on the side. And that started the journey, man. Really, that was it for me. That
So
one
Raj,
book.
big question for you here.
Yeah.
Why coffee?
So just to give some context as to how JavaPress started. So I was
And
taking all these.
did you just straight up quit your corporate job before you had anything lined up, or you kind of just put your dominoes in order and
Oh, I was a domino guy,
yeah.
for sure. So I was buying courses, and so it starts with the courses. I was buying my first course did not had nothing to do with coffee, physical products, anything. It was like how to start a software company from scratch.
Okay.
Tried that out, did it for several months, got a lot of traction, but then ended up failing because of sound business decisions that weren't really rooted in any sound logic. And so then I started buying more courses, just didn't give up. I found a course that taught people how to sell physical products online. And from my previous software stuff, I mean, I had chosen a niche or an industry that was based on my passions, and I loved beer. That was like my
Okay.
thing. You know, I was right out of college. I was like, oh man, I want to hang out with people that are making beer. I want a beer on beer. Like, I just love it all. Right. And so I chose that path, but I realized later on that breweries don't make any money.
Mm,
So then or at least not until they're big,
right.
and the people that are big are already being serviced by multiple people.
Yeah.
So when I started the physical products and I wanted to learn how to sell physical products, I went the opposite way. And I actually went towards looking for industries and niches that needed to be serviced, as opposed to trying to find something that I was super passionate about in the beginning.
Okay.
So when I first started, coffee wasn't my true and God-given passion. It was a market and an industry that I believed had potential over time. And if I worked really hard and if I found an angle to serve customers at the highest capacity, I would win and be able to experience the freedom that I ultimately wanted when I got into business.
What did you see about coffee where you saw that window and you're like, oh, maybe we have something here?
So our
Because a
first
lot of
product,
people could tell you, Raj, listen, there's Starbucks, there's Dunkin' Donuts. We don't need more coffee. Like, forget about it. So what did
so
you see that you're like, you know what? There's a window here and I'm going to go for it.
yeah, absolutely. So I started off selling physical products, which in a say, it weren't coffee.
Okay.
Coffee is a physical product, but it wasn't the first product we launched. The first product we launched was a manual coffee grinder. And that
Okay.
was like we found designs that looked really cool. And then we went on Google and forums and found people looking for these types of products, looking at Kickstarter. And so I took that product, branded it under the Java Press umbrella, and then took it to market. And the first place we took it to market was Amazon. And this
Okay.
was several years ago. So September 2015.
Okay.
And so that was the first way I got started. Now, I also stopped listening to people telling me I couldn't do something. I started listening to people that were telling me how to do something.
I love
So,
that. Yeah.
if I continued listening to my existing friends, my parents, my old mentors, my coaches, whatever, because this is what I realized, at least everything that got me to where I wasn't going to get me to where I wanted to go.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to change, because that 4-hour work, that book changed everything. Like, if I was going to be like that, if I wanted that lifestyle, I had to learn from people that were actually living that lifestyle, or people
Yeah.
that were on the path to living that lifestyle. So kind of had to change my environment. And so so I started listening to people that were finding success selling products online, and those became my mentors. So slowly but surely, I started selling the grinders online. And then that's when, I had a horrible experience at work. And that's when, like, the Java Press brand was actually born.
What's your corporate job?
Yeah.
So you
And
were launching products online and you still had the corporate job.
yep,
So you're putting in some massive hours then.
yeah, I was working. I mean, I was waking up at 5 a.m., working until 7, going to work, and then working out during lunch, and then,
All
working
day.
until 5, and then, commuting back home, and then, working for a couple more hours, and then calling the girlfriend and going to sleep. And that was my
Yeah.
day to day for, a while. But, man, like, I just, it's not that I was passionate. I wasn't passionate about coffee. I was passionate about freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I knew what I wanted, and I knew what I wanted. And so that's how that started. But it didn't, and in the beginning, actually, I wasn't even that crazy. Like, the first couple months, like, I launched it and I was just kind of tweaking and testing things on the
Yeah.
side and seeing if it worked. And, I wasn't really taking it seriously. And then that's when I had a mentor who worked 40 something years at the same company have a heart attack 3 months before retirement. And that was like 3 months after I launched Java Press. And that was a slap in the face. I mean, that was like everything I'd been reading, everything I'd been learning about, like, just everything and living life now. And it all, like, hit me at once. And for the first time, I'd seen this hamster wheel that we were all creating for ourselves. And I got myself off of it for a split second just to see what the world looked like. And I didn't like what I saw.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when I think I doubled down, and I really started waking up at 5 a.m. and working late and really hustling, because I just wanted to make this work. And then 7 months later, man, we were doing over 6 figures a month. I mean, we had a great business selling the coffee equipment, and And then at that point, up and all leading up to that, I was realizing how big of an impact that Jerry's death had on me. And, we changed the mission of the company, and we wanted to really help people live life now, and using coffee as a vehicle to do that became the mission and the vision for what we were doing at Java Press. And after we did that is when we realized we had to get into actual coffee and find the best coffee and sell coffee in a way, because ultimately, if we were just selling equipment and we had no control over the quality, the kind of beans, the freshness and things that other people were getting, we have no control over the ability to influence somebody having a great start to their morning. So we launched the coffees with the vision and the mission to being able to service somebody's morning ritual, the first thing they do before they get their day started, so that they can start their day in a way that allows them to experience joy in every other part of their life. And
Love that.
so Java Press has kind of evolved over time, but really it started off as a side hustle. It started off as a way for me to try something new on the side, to change, to grow, to just shooting for something, almost in the future that really didn't feel tangible at the time. And over time it happened. And I actually, I didn't leave my job until a year and a half ago. So
When did you know you had something going? And did you hit a couple roadblocks where you're like, I don't know if this is working?
oh yeah, I mean, I ran into quality issues with our products. I mean, our first products we sourced from China, and that had a whole range of like just quality supplier issues and product quality. And I mean, I remember the first time we had placed a really big order. I mean, like 60% of the orders were like broken. And and I didn't know they were going to break, because they were like using some type of material that looked good on the outside, but the second people used it 3 or 4 times, it broke.
Wow.
They were getting all these people returns and all. I mean, I was just like, this is awful.
Yeah.
But that's when the downside actually turned into the biggest opportunity I had. That was an opportunity for me to make things right. So I remember when that happened, a customer would reach out to us. I'd have my app on my phone, my email, and immediately within like 2 minutes of getting an email, I'd respond saying, hey, I'm so sorry. I know I made a mistake. Let me make this right. I'll refund you. And then whenever we fix the part, I'll send you a new part. And that was the first time that we had almost people weren't mad after that. They had turned into like these really nice people that were like, oh my God, I didn't expect people to get back to me so quickly. You didn't have to do that. I just, I was just upset that this happened. And, you can just send me a part whenever. And, so it turned, then they became our raving fans. And whenever we had our coffees ready and our coffee line we launched, I mean, they were the ones that were buying $600, $700, $800 worth of coffee.
Wow.
To gift, to buy, to be a part of. And I mean, it changed everything. So, those obstacles that I had along the way, I don't really necessarily call them obstacles. I just call them opportunities for me to develop the skill sets I needed to thrive in the face of uncertainty. And that's what those obstacles turned into for me. They just turned into opportunities. Every time something hit the fan, it was either swim or sink. And I sure as hell was going to be swimming. So,
yeah. So where are you guys at now? It's been like 3 years later now.
Yep. About 3 years later.
What's going on now?
Yeah, man. 3 years later, we launched, we changed the mission of the company. We grew, the company's grown a lot. We've been growing at a pretty exponential pace since we started, and it's been a joy, really. I mean, in the last year, we launched the Stay Grounded podcast and community and lifestyle, just to take the message that we were already sharing with our customers to bigger audiences about living life intentionally, being full and passionate and purposeful with everything you're doing. And that has been on a crazy trajectory, which has been amazing just to see how much is happening. We launched our lines of coffees last December, I think, and that has been on a amazing trajectory. It's just been amazing to see, and we partner with Make-A-Wish. We do a lot of charity work, and we have a vibrant team now, and it's just amazing to see kind of the growth. I mean, I never expected this little side hustle to turn into what it has now. I mean,
did you go on Shark Tank, or you just did a deal with Damon?
We did. So, I got mentored by Damon.
Wow.
So I got a personal mentoring session with him, and At the time, he was releasing his book, Rise and Grind, which was, I think, earlier in the year. And, it was such a brand alignment that we worked out in a partnership deal with him where we would promote his books and he would promote us. And so it was really cool. I mean, it was great learning from him. Loved working with his team, and being around somebody who's sold $8 billion worth of products over time is somebody that I really wanted to learn from, and it was amazing.
What's one of the biggest things you've picked up from him, or just people like him in general?
You know what? It's kind of funny. It's funny that we're on a health podcast, but it's taking care of your health. He had, I think, some sort of thyroid cancer or some sort of cancer last year. And he was ignoring the signs. He didn't know. He was just working and not taking time to take care of his body and eat right. And, he was overworking himself. And thankfully he had the money to go and get it fixed quickly. But he recognized, and it was cool because, I asked him, I was like, so what's one thing you'll leave me? He's like, your health is all you have. If you can be as rich as you want in the world, but if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. So it was really cool for me to hear that type of a lesson from him this early on in my life.
Definitely.
And especially from somebody I looked up to. He gave a lot of great marketing advice and business, but the one thing I took away the most was just, your body is the vehicle you're going to use to make money.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't take care of your body, if you're not working with energy, if you're not excited to do what you're doing, the money won't matter. And
absolutely.
So that was really cool.
Yeah. So Raj, do you know the ins and outs of the coffee industry as well? Like, I know you make the grinders and everything. Do you work with the actual beans and all that stuff?
So we work with, we partner with roasters, and we work with farmers, and we do a lot of work in the industry, around that model. I would say that we, I know coffee. So if you have coffee related questions,
all right, I got some questions for you, Raj.
Yeah.
So where do the best beans come from?
So the best beans come from, what we like to call micro lot farmers.
Micro lot.
So there's lots of farms out there. There's thousands and thousands of farms all over Central, South America, Ethiopia, eastern parts of Africa, Sumatra, Papua New Guinea. All these different parts. I think now California has farms. So farms necessarily, you need elevation to grow coffee.
Okay.
So the best coffee grows around 15 to 1800 feet above sea level. So they're on these like hills, if you would.
I did not know that. Interesting.
Yeah. So generally speaking, mountainous areas, especially Central and South America, have great coffee growing climates and regions to support that. As far as buying coffee and the best farmers, so there's so many farms out there. The Specialty Coffee Association is like the governing organization that grades coffee on its quality, on its defect rates, on the way it's on each step that's followed to ensure the highest quality. So and the certifications that they use are like, you get an actual specialty grade. They also have rainforest alliances. Organic coffee is not necessarily the best marker for healthy coffee, if you would.
Okay. Why is that?
Well, because one, organic coffee, if you buy organic coffee, it's going to be guaranteed to not have any of the pesticides used.
Right.
So that is a marker you can use, but you're also limiting yourself to the experience of coffee. So coffee in general, we personally buy organically grown coffee, because we personally go out there and find farmers that are doing amazing things in the world. We go personally out there and see what the quality steps are. We look at the specialty grade. We put them through 3 or 4 different quality control processes, from the importer to us to the roasters. Like, everybody is essentially adding a layer of inspection. Right. And so we personally like to buy from farmers that are more sustainable.
Okay.
So like sustainable minded farmers, eco-friendly farmers, farmers that are giving back to their local communities. Organic certifications, you have to pay thousands of dollars not only to certify the farm, you have to certify the farmer. And a lot of these guys are they're poor, man.
Yeah.
Coffee as an industry has been exploiting farmers for years, and specialty coffee. That's why if you go to like a really nice coffee shop, you're going to see coffee anywhere from $18 to $25 a bag. It's not because there's margin involved in that. It's because instead of paying people pennies on the dime, which is what you can, let's think about it this way. If you buy a Maxwell House jar of coffee, which is like $8,
right,
sometimes even less than that, and you've got farmers, importers, growers, Maxwell House, roasters,
they're not making
all these different
any.
layers. I mean, who's getting pinched, right? At the end of the day, like the guys who can't fight for their rights are the ones getting pinched.
Yeah.
So you got to look at, when you think about the coffee industry in general and where you want to buy coffee from and the best coffee, one, you want to buy from roasters, because I don't think anybody's going to. You can buy green coffee and roast it yourself if you really want to go to that extreme level. I wouldn't recommend that just because there's so many great roasters out there that can do that for you. If you're buying coffee, one, you want to buy coffee from people that are very transparent about who they're buying from. So transparent from the farmer, where the farm is, sometimes even how much they paid for the coffee, the story behind the farmer, what's the farmer doing? I mean, like it should, and it's going to get to that point where coffee is so traceable. It's like it's we're getting there. Everybody wants to know more about the farm, the farmer, and everything.
Right.
So the first step is just finding a roaster that is super transparent about who they're buying from.
So is the roasting process different than getting the actual beans?
Yeah. So the beans themselves, so there's the cherry. So coffee is actually a cherry. So it's like a little, like it's actually a pretty delicious cherry, like a little berry. And then on the inside of it,
right off the,
so
what is it like? Is it growing off like a little berry, like bush, or
yeah,
is
it's like a shrub.
Okay.
So it's like these coffee trees, and like you there's like seasons that you pick the coffees, and different parts of the world have different seasonal, times. So like, Sumatra, you can only pick coffee once a year. Brazil, you can pick coffee multiple times in the year, which is why Brazil is usually the most popular offering that you'll see in different places. And so like, it just depends on the climate, but really it starts with the cherry. The fruit itself, actually, there's people who actually use the fruit to make tea.
Okay.
And that's called cascara. So if you ever see the word cascara, that's actually just coffee tea that comes from the berry itself.
Still so as potent as like after you roast it, or is like caffeine?
Yeah, I mean, well, so the caffeine is in the bean, in the seed itself. I mean, the berry does have elements of caffeine, but I think the bean has almost everything in it. I don't know much about cascaras, so I would.
Okay,
I'd
veer off of that.
Yeah, I'll defer that off to the tea experts.
Yeah.
But the bean itself. So once you get the bean, then you go through the process of separating the bad cherries from the good ones, drying them out, getting the beans out, washing them.
How long does it take to dry it out?
Well, it depends. So a lot of times there's natural processing, there's washed processing, but I mean, you're laying them out on a bed, really, and then just letting the sun naturally do it. I mean, it ranges, man. It ranges anywhere from a couple of days to a couple of weeks. I mean, it's just, it depends on where you are. Like if you're in Sumatra where it's super humid, it's going to take a lot longer than somewhere where, like in eastern parts of Africa, where it's like the sun beaming down. And there's going to be different processes that you're going to follow to wash and create the coffee. But ultimately, you go through that. So there's all those processes. And then that's when quality control happens. So the farm does their own quality control, where they go through and they'll look through and pick out defects and make sure that there's nothing coming out of it. And so they do that. Then from there, another governing body looks at it and grades it. And then the importers, especially, or us, or different people who are actually buying the coffee, will go in, put it through another round of tests, whether they're lab tests or different things, just to see the different stages that were followed. So again, as long as you're buying from a reputable roaster and you're buying from somebody who's very honest. Now, micro lot coffee is essentially, if you've got a giant farm, right, and you've got just tons of, if you've got a giant farm, micro lot coffee is like the best of that farm. Okay. So there's some plants that grow really well, and some that, like, one year, if you get pumpkins out the wazoo, like, that's the best pumpkins. Like, those best pumpkins are going to be priced a little higher. Same concept with micro lot coffee. So micro lot coffees are in very small batch. and they're not abundant. So like once they run out, they're pretty much out, and they're not you can't really replicate them, and they're not made for mass market. So micro lot coffees are usually the best crop from the crop that was picked. Those are the ones that are usually the highest grade, the least defects, the ones that taste the best, and the ones that end up winning awards, and the ones that go out there and I mean, and we've had a couple of them in our.
Is it tough to get your hands on that?
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, once you get them, like we can't even buy enough for our customers. It's kind of weird. Like it upsets me because I want to buy as much as I can, but once they run out, they run out, and it's a buying frenzy for it. So like you kind of have to like. You're always on the hunt for better coffees and good coffees, and so but once they run out, they run out, and then it's seasonal, right? So like a lot of times most of our coffees are from Central and South America, and there's a reason why, because it's much more like it's just more available. There's more options, there's more farms. But go out to someplace like Papua New Guinea, dude, like like it's like a remote island, untouched. I mean, yes, that coffee is going to be exquisite, but there's only so much we can buy. And so like December's offering is an offering from Papua New Guinea. They don't even have coffee farms. They have coffee gardens because it's like so untouched, which is like cool. So like, anyways, that's the farm. That's everything up to farm to picking to drying. And then the finished product is called green coffee.
Okay.
So green coffee is like the cherry dried completely, removed from defects, and then they're bagged. And then from there, buyers go in and buy as much as they can of whatever coffee they want. They do the cupping. Cupping is the testing process to see what it tastes like, what it smells like. And you go through multiple layers of this. From there, you buy the coffee. Then the roasting process begins.
Okay.
So then
how do you find the roaster you want? Is that like just as crucial as finding a farmer?
Oh, 100%. I mean,
same thing as finding the farmer. You find out where they're coming from.
I mean, I visited over 100 different roasters until we found the guys that aligned with our vision for the product we wanted.
Wow.
I mean, we did, and I mean, and it's not just there's so much that goes into creating a craft product, right? Like it's not just the quality of the beans. Quality of beans is number one, but the care to every part of the process so for example, we roast and ship our coffees within 2 hours.
Okay.
So like freshness is a huge thing for us because, we personally believe, and this is my own philosophy on holistic living, living a healthy life is a combination of a healthy mind, body, and spirit. So, when we create a coffee experience, it's not just about getting good beans in somebody's hands. It's about delivering a sensory experience that actually awakens the soul. So like when you open up, I don't know if you've ever smelled fresh roasted coffee, but
I probably haven't.
When you take a smell of fresh roasted coffee, when it's right off the oven, I mean, dude, I don't think there's anything that smells better. And, and so, we try to create these micro moments of positivity and happiness into the ritual of making coffee itself. And so, like that was really important to us. We wanted people that understood the importance of freshness. We wanted people that understood the importance of highlighting the unique characteristics of every bean, because we're buying pretty expensive stuff.
Right.
Like we're not buying like just any coffee that we can just dark roast and put a label, which is what most mass coffee companies do. I mean, these coffee companies, I'm not going to name their names, but you probably already know who they are.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they buy the beans, they roast them to where they're so oily on the outside, roast away all the healthy antioxidants, all the healthy chlorogenic acids that lead to anti-inflammatory properties, like pretty much roast everything away.
Yeah.
To leave just a product that's gonna stale quickly because it's sitting on a shelf for months.
Absolutely. I love how people say coffee is not healthy. It's like, no, it's the coffee bean you're buying and all the crap you're putting into the coffee, like the sweet and low.
Yep.
And like all that stuff. Like,
oh man,
organic coffee is good for you.
No, man. And you're hitting the nail on the head. So like when we found our roasters, we really wanted to find people that respected the beans we were buying. Like we're not just buying these beans that are, like I said, that need to be dark roasted to mask up a bunch of crappy flavors. Like these are coffees that have incredible flavor, are incredibly robust. And we wanted, so actually all of our coffees are designed to be anywhere from a light medium to a medium roast.
Okay.
So we don't tailor for taste. We tailor to make that bean, whatever that bean is, taste the best.
And is it
And
true the lighter the roast, the more caffeine is savored in the bean?
so the way I like to look at it, and it's true to a certain extent. Like if you don't roast the coffee itself, it's in its truest form,
Right.
right? So like the less you are to roasting, but obviously you don't want to have green coffee either, because
Right.
that doesn't really activate anything. Heat is actually a good thing for coffee.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's why when you roast the coffee, you are evoking a lot of the nutrients that come out by putting it through a heated process. So I think heat's okay. Now over roasting is bad, in my opinion, just because, so it's not necessarily the caffeine that I personally care about. It's the antioxidant and the chlorogenic acid count. So chlorogenic acids are these amazing compounds in coffee that lead to very anti-inflammatory benefits. Those are only present in light to medium roast coffees. The darker your coffee gets, the less efficient the intake of antioxidants and these chlorogenic properties are. So for me, I personally try to find light to medium roast coffees. I do not go the dark roast path. It just doesn't make any sense to me. It honestly doesn't even taste that good. I don't like the bite that bitter bite you get when you drink coffee is not supposed to happen.
Really?
Like that's not real. Like we've been fed a lie for years by gas station coffee and office coffee and instant coffee. I mean, man, that bite is not real. It's supposed to taste like rich, chocolatey, caramelly, sometimes even fruity, depending on where you get the coffee from.
Wow.
That's the process, man. And then you nailed it on the head. I mean, if you want to drink the best cup of coffee, don't put sweeteners in it. Don't put milk in it. I mean, if you're buying good beans, you shouldn't have to.
Right. And Raj, how long is the bean good for? Because you see like all those massive coffee products, that bean has been grounded up for months and it's been on a shelf. Like, what is the shelf life? Is it different from when you actually grind the bean up and it's grounded?
So I'm gonna share a fact with you. So coffee is not supposed to be exposed to oxygen. So the second it's exposed to oxygen is when it starts to stale.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So in its roasted form. So the second, when it's whole bean, it can sit for longer on a shelf because the surface area of the bean hasn't been exposed to enough oxygen. So the process is called oxidation. Now, when you open the bag, all of a sudden it's being exposed to a lot of oxygen, right? So from that point, for whole bean coffee, usually it takes about 2 weeks of optimum freshness before you really don't want to buy it.
Wow.
It starts to stale, and it's not like stale in a bread kind of way where you start seeing mold and different things on it. Like that's not what it is, but it is going to diminish in flavor. It is going to diminish in potency, and it is going to diminish in just the overall experience of the coffee. And there's no reason to have that experience. Especially when there's so many great options out there to just have fresh coffee delivered to you or picked up.
Absolutely.
So now to take that a step further, if we take that surface area concept, if you pre-ground coffee, you're already breaking the seal of the bean and you're exposing millions of little particles to oxygen all at once. Pre-ground coffee starts to lose its freshness within 15 minutes. I mean, if you're buying pre-ground coffee, the quickest way I can say to just change the game for you is go buy whole bean.
Yeah.
And then if you want to change the game one step further, go buy whole bean coffee that's been roasted within 2 weeks. And if you want to take it one step further, make sure you know who you're buying your coffee from and you know the farmers, and you try to find coffees that are small batch, exquisite, and roasted for that region's flavor as opposed to a specific profile.
Right.
And if you follow those steps, you should be able to drink black coffee at its finest.
So Raj, if you're just a regular consumer of coffee in America, where do you recommend, like you're someone that's not going to go to Central America or Africa to get the beans, like, do you go to your, like the most reputable coffee shop? that are roasting their own coffee to get the beans? Is Whole Foods good? Like, what do you recommend in that department?
Well, I mean, I got to throw a plug out for us.
Absolutely.
I would recommend, if you don't want to do the work, go to javapress.com.
You guys ship the beans and everything.
Yeah, we roast and ship it, and we find a new farmer from a different part of the world every month.
Wow.
And so, we roast on a weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly basis. And
I didn't know you guys were roasting and shipping coffee. I thought you guys were just doing the grinders and everything. That's awesome.
No. We have our own. So yeah, we launched our coffee line about a year ago. So yeah, we got too into it.
Yeah.
I think that's the best. Like, we started selling the equipment, and we were like, man, like, coffee is fun. And so it's fun learning from the farmers. It's fun impacting their lives. I mean, like last Christmas, we partnered with a farmer. I think his name was Jose Maria something. I forget his name. Out of Brazil. This guy, he took the proceeds, or like the bump we gave him, and he dressed up as Santa, bought a bunch of toys, and just went out in his village, just giving out toys to people.
Unreal.
Like, right? Like that's the kind of stuff that like I personally love. I love the opportunity to tell their stories. Like, we're huge on storytelling. And so anyways, I highly recommend us if you want to check us out. If not, then no worries. There's plenty of options locally too. I mean, find a good local roaster that you can rely on, and make sure you check the roast dates. Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing. Buy whole bean, check the roast dates.
So you're saying generally, if it's more than 2 or 3 weeks, you might want to find another roaster?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you want it all right. So you don't want it right off the roaster because the coffee still needs time in what's called degassing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why most coffee bags have valves on them.
Okay.
So they're one-way valves. They don't let oxygen in, but they let carbon dioxide out. So like, it's like just letting like degasification of the coffee. And that usually takes about 48 hours.
Okay.
So like, that's why that's why I like buying online, just because you order it. It takes about 2 days to arrive anyways. And it's just like fresh, degassed in your doorstep. But if you're going to do it, so make sure you don't buy coffee that's like right off the roaster. Like if it's if it was roasted yesterday, don't buy that coffee. It's going to taste really weird. Yeah. Or buy it and let it sit for like a day.
Gotcha.
Which is actually that's what probably I do. If you find something that's super fresh, buy it and let it sit. Let it sit for 2 days, and then you can open it up, and your world is going to be changed. Once you try fresh, man, you can't go back.
Absolutely.
Like it's actually just a spoiled it's a spoiled luxury, but it's one that I don't take for granted.
And Raj, what's your favorite way to actually make the coffee? French press, percolator, like all that stuff. Like, what's your favorite?
My favorite coffee maker. I hand grind my coffee every day. So one, I'd recommend getting a really good grinder. Let's talk about equipment for a second too, because I think
let's do it.
This is a big part of coffee. If you're gonna buy and enjoy really good coffee, make sure you get a good grinder. Now, we have a manual grinder, so I personally like the art of manual grinding, just because it's like a forced break for me. It's like my morning ritual. So it takes me about 7 to 10 minutes to grind my coffee, heat up the water, pour it in, experience it, and it's like my thing. Mm-hmm. And so that's a process. But if you want to get an electric grinder, there's plenty of great burr grinders. You want to get a burr grinder, which is a type of grinder. Blade grinders are gonna like screw your coffee up in many different ways.
Really?
One of the biggest things that lead to coffee tasting amazing is consistency of the grind. So if you use a blade, one, it's just going to hack away at the coffee. So sometimes you get bigger chunks than others, and it's going to lead to an uneven extraction profile. Because pretty much what you're doing with coffee is you're letting water drip through it. And if there's bigger parts than others, water is going to drip through faster on the parts that are like bigger holes. It's like Swiss cheese. It's just going to go through whatever the most porous part of the coffee is. Mm-hmm. So if you want really good coffee, you want a burr grinder. Burr grinders are like a dual grinding system that will almost like guarantee the consistency of the grind.
Okay.
So you'll get like all the same grind, and depending on what kind of coffee maker you're using, you can use either a really fine grind or a really coarse grind. So burr grinders are my preferred option. Coffee makers, I'm actually a huge fan of the AeroPress.
AeroPress?
It's not even a product we sell. I honestly don't even want to create one just because I love it so much. Like, it's so good. It's like $30 on Amazon.
What is
It'll
it?
last. It's
Is it
like
a grinder as well, or is it?
no, man. It's like a mix between. It's a non-electric coffee maker. So
Okay.
I'm a big fan of non-electric coffee makers. I like coffee that's brewed by hand. There's just
Yeah.
something really like satisfying about.
Working with the coffee is probably more satisfying. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like you worked for it, you drink it. It's like your cup of coffee. So like there's something very gratifying about that. So the AeroPress is like the mix between an espresso machine and a French press.
Okay.
So like it's enough for one cup of coffee. You can't make more than one.
Yeah.
And it's like you put the coffee in, you put the water in, and then you kind of like push it down into you brew it on top of a cup. And you push it in. And man, it is so awesome, and it's so
one
easy.
cup's probably get you buzzing, right?
Oh yeah, man. It's like it's a strong cup of coffee, and for using good coffee, it's just, man, it's literally like, and you can travel with it. Like,
nice.
it's so small. It's like it's about the size of this water glass here, and or actually even smaller than that. And like you just and our grinder fits right in it. So I don't drink hotel coffee. I actually travel with my own coffee. And just
and everything.
Yeah, it just fits in my backpack. I don't even have to put it in a check-in bag or anything, and usually get some pretty funny looks from security. But but overall, I mean, it's a good experience. So yeah, I'd recommend the AeroPress.
Awesome, love that. All right, Raj, that was a lot to digest there. That was awesome. I learned a tremendous amount about coffee today. So Raj, if there's one piece of advice that you have taken with you over the years that you would like to gift the audience, what would it be? Could be absolutely anything.
Man, it's just live life. You know, I mean, since I've been on my entrepreneurial journey, I've felt the roller coasters. I felt the ups. I felt the downs.
Comes in waves.
And and you know, just I'm so grateful to experience like every spectrum of life, right? Like, so if there's anything I can just leave with the audience is, don't be afraid to experience the lows. Don't be afraid to experience the highs. Let yourself be extremely happy and let yourself be extremely sad. I think it's all a part of living a full and intentional life. And unless you actually experience the emotional ranges of what you're capable of, you're not truly living. So
love that.
Live life.
And Raj, where can people find you? Social media, websites, and all that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. You can go to javapress.com. And that's my coffee company. rajjana.com is my personal website. You can check out my podcast, Stay Grounded. And then we're on iTunes and all the mediums. I'm on social media too. You can find me on Instagram, Raj_Jana. That's usually where I'm most active. Or just like I said, get in touch. And if I can help in any way, feel free to just get in touch with me. But if anything, just go drink good coffee and be really happy. That's the two things that I could probably just leave on a good note.
Well, first order of business, I need to get a coffee grinder from JavaPress and some beans, and then we'll be ready to go. And and what was that thing on Amazon?
The AeroPress.
AeroPress.
Yeah, just look it up, dude. There's it's literally $30. It makes the best Christmas present.
Oh yeah.
So if you got any coffee lovers in your life, I'd highly recommend the AeroPress and its full glory.
Perfect.
That's a lifer present.
Oh yeah. All right, Raj, thank you so much for coming on. Really enjoyed this episode, and look forward to talking to you again soon. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, brother. Cheers. Thank you.
All right. Cheers.